Why are we building such capable machines, but we cannot communicate between them? Why does this issue exist? That was a realization of a huge gap, which we call the interoperability gap.
Aldus, coffee, tea, or something else? What fuels your mornings?
Tea and hunger for robotics.
That's a great answer. I like that. When you were a kid, what did you think you'd be when you grew up?
Video game tester. I was really into video games since younger, yeah. And here I am still working with computer software.
I think that's a great goal, though. If you love the games, like, I just want to test these forever.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't heard anyone say that. Yeah, I love that. What's one technology that you can't live without?
Ooh, I mean, the most obvious is probably the internet. But otherwise, that is a very, very good question. I'll probably say kettle. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a quick tea boiling.
That's a good one too. If you could fast forward 10 years and see one impact that your work has made on the world, what would that be?
Accelerated the adoption of robotics across multiple sectors.
Solid answer. Welcome to Machine Minds, everyone. I'm your host, Greg Terrusian, founder of Samson Rose, your robotics talent search partner. And on today's episode, I'm joined by Aldus van der Burg, founder and CEO at Meili Robotics. Thanks for being on the show today, Aldus.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Yeah, let's jump into it. So I want to go back because you had this unique global path before starting the company. What were the formative experiences that pushed you towards robotics and even entrepreneurship in general?
It was actually by circumstance and in some ways you could say accidental. So my background is automotive engineering, which brought me to Denmark for a startup. We were going to build a platform for car sharing, kind of like car clubs, but rather than retrofitting existing mass-produced cars, we were going to make it cheap from the start for purpose. But that company unfortunately went bankrupt shortly after, and then I joined a drone company also in Copenhagen. But then it sort of evolved into me going into my own thing through an idea that they had of, hey, Aldus, you've been talking about drone delivery. Why don't you do beer delivery with drones at music festivals? Which I obviously thought was, that's a really stupid idea. But
wait a second. So is that for people in the festival, they order and the drones bring it to them in the festival? Okay.
Exactly that, yeah. So
there's a lot of problems there.
I mean, it's problems, but we're engineers, so we solve them.
Yeah, true, yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, oh, that's a pretty stupid idea. But 1 month later, I started a drone delivery company as a service for Last Mile, and back in 2018. And then reality came where regulations, legislation was just challenging. You can't get a permit to fly over people's property, over people, of course, beyond visual line of sight. Like, that was a lot of challenges. So I shut that down and then opened MyLe in 2019. But the original concept was last mile delivery with robots. So R2D2 delivering pizzas.
Yeah.
And that is effectively my hard entry into the robotic space, where that was in 2019. But then through 2019, we discovered that, okay, yeah, maybe we've grounded the fleet, but there's still those regulatory issues and all this. And that sort of evolved into us discovering an issue on the market, which we're solving today by a hard pivot in January 2020.
Nice. Okay. So before MyLe, what did you believe about autonomy that turned out to be wrong, apart from the regulatory side of things?
Yeah, I thought it was a lot more plug and play. Like
Mm.
robots are very clever when they are um, well programmed correctly. So I thought it was a lot more of I'm introducing a robot to this place, and yeah, it should pretty much just be straight out the box. So I was quite naive in thinking that yeah, you could buy a robot and then press the power on button, a bit like a laptop fresh out of the box, and then it'll just
Yeah.
power up and you're good to go. But no, there obviously is configuration, the setup, there's calibrations, there's a lot behind it, which I think could still be solvable out of the box kind of solutions in the future.
Yeah. Was there a specific moment that you thought, hey, this is broken, we need to rethink how robots move in the real world, or even like that way to get them up and running, and then let's build a company around this?
No, absolutely. I mean, the big motivator of the pivot in January 2020 was, as mentioned, we were going to do last mile delivery with robots, but not being able to get anywhere with that, we did attend some conferences to sort of see where else can we go, and there was a conference about mobile robots in healthcare in the Danish healthcare, and this was held in Odense. Um, Two from my team went to that and they came back saying, hey, there actually was a project where they're trying to connect two robots together, one from brand A, one from brand B. And the conclusion of the project was there has to be a third party software. We cannot run these two on the same floor using the OEM software, like as
Mm.
expected. Um, so that was a show for us that okay, this is something that's so logical. Like, of course, I'm going to be buying different robots for different use cases, and it can be from the mundane, if you like, of material moving, meeting, cleaning robots, up to the scaled fleets of trolley movers, pallet movers, cleaners, inventory, stock check, um, tote movers, and from sizes small turtle bots to large, like heavy machinery.
Yeah.
Um, that was a realization of a huge gap, which we call the interoperability gap, and that is a broken part of it. Of why does this issue exist? Like, why are we building such capable machines, but we cannot communicate between them?
Interesting. So I guess let's take a bit of a step back then. For people not familiar with Meili Robotics, what do you do? What's the product in an easy digestible way?
So we are a software platform. We provide the universal fleet management for mobile robots. We
Nice.
take a hardware, vendor, and industry sector agnostic approach. So we enable robot operators, robot manufacturers, system integrators, and the end users to utilize robots, to distribute robots, and have them um, capable of performing the expected use case that the robot is built for.
Awesome. Awesome. For people that aren't familiar, what does it actually cost companies when robots don't move reliably or can't
Mm.
adapt to these real world complexities that they get deployed in?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an issue we have seen quite a lot from the market where they they may have two robots, again, brand A, brand B, and they're merging to pass through a narrow entry, let's say in a warehouse. So they're going from one point to another, and they have to merge onto the same path. But as they don't communicate, and you're effectively saying, "Yeah, we'll rely on its sensors. It should be able to see each other," but it might be some issues that come up, such as a faulty sensor or bad vision, and they do collide. And not only is that the first cost, like maybe there is damage, or they have stopped as they should by the safety systems, but now they've come to a point that they're blocking each other. They've come into a gridlock.
Right.
So that's the first one. So you're losing possible material damage. Secondly, downtime, but then also human elements that someone has to stop what they're doing, put down maybe tools or stop what they're doing, as I said, walk over to it, reset them, push them back, and then make sure that it clears. And if you take that by scale, like with one of the cases that we saw, this was occurring multiple double digits numbers per day. And you start scaling
Really?
that. That was just one
Wow.
intersection. You start scaling that per week, per month. And that was just one intersection that was occurring at. There was a few other issues similar to that across, and that was really big. I guess you say loss of productivity, loss of output,
Yeah.
black hole for them.
That's I think if you've never been in one of these facilities, you haven't seen like how many robots, the volume, the movement, all of that, and just the bottleneck that can create. And like you said, the black
Yeah.
hole of productivity and money.
Then the other one of when an incident happens, like if a person has to intervene, a human, well, what happens if it's all the way on the other side of the building and these facilities are large? So,
Yeah.
you're waiting for that person to get all the way there, maybe walkie-talkie in and saying, okay, yeah, I found the problem. Okay, what do I do? There's a knock-on effect of that. And if
Yeah.
you're in a
Yeah.
production line facility, that assembly line needs to roll.
True. Yeah. It's not just the logistics side of it. I didn't think
Oh,
about
yeah.
that, the production side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? I'm curious, obviously fleet management, there's companies that they'll try and do it for themselves, like their own fleets and things like that. But why is fleet management such a hard technical challenge, even now in 2026? Why are people not able to,
Yeah.
find something reliable?
Um, I would start off with a lot of the robot brands, more traditional, like the established brands that have been around for a while. They do have their own proprietary tech stack. So they have their own APIs or their own structure. And communicating to that, if other companies have done the other way, it can be quite hard to have that, that conversion of messages and stuff. The other one is that the robot manufacturers, and this is not in a way of talking down of them, they are really strong on hardware. Like they know what they're doing. But software can sometimes be perceived as simple. Like, let's build the hardware first, software comes later.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the software that does get shipped, which is the OEM in-house builds, it's usually not stable. It's not user intuitive. It's not user friendly. So it becomes a kind of like a last minute throw together ad hoc. Like, oh, we need a software stack now. We'll just put it together and ship it. So we saw at the beginning when we started developing our own, like, okay, what does the platforms look like on the market? And I mean, some of these guys, like the robots, are fantastic. Like hard, solid, durable, reliable. But then you see the software, and it's like this looks like it's like it's a 30-year-old software. Like this is Windows 98 and 95. How can you get away with putting a price on this, like a price tag?
Yeah.
So that's one of them, and then there's the for purpose built as well. So one software stack might not be applicable for another. So a software that is more built for, let's say, tugging is not the same focus point as a pallet lifting robot, because it's two different applications. It's two different
Right.
use cases. So it becomes difficult of like, how do you correlate those and make them communicate with each other, that it is open to understanding what is the commands I'm receiving, what is my mission, rather than just saying, oh, go pick up payload. I was like, okay, what is the payload?
Yeah. True. What would you say because obviously there's a lot of these companies there, they build their own or integrate an autonomy stack onto their robots, but then that's fine in a lab or a test environment. And then there's obviously production ready and real world ready autonomy. In your opinion, what's the difference between the two of those, lab ready and then production ready?
Oh yeah, no, this is definitely one of the loaded questions. I mean, lab ready, lab tested, lab demonstrations are fantastic because it's so sterile, it's so controlled. Like all the conditions are met and for built. But when you get to real life on-site so demonstrations, I'm talking now in a hardware sort of sense. You know, there may be other traffic, and I'm talking other people walking around, or even other manually driven or other robots that it has to sort of see and navigate around. It's dirtier, it may be dusty, so may it do the sensors and cameras on the robots be able to pick up like them? Is there a disturbance? Is the signal strength good because it's a metal frame in these facilities? It's a lot of the perfect conditions aren't going to be perfect in real life. It's a bit like self-driving cars. Cars that have been tested and operate every day in California, like let's say the Bay Area. Now take them to Norway where it's snowing. You know, what's it going to do?
Different ball game. Yeah.
Exactly. Or don't even have to go out of the country. Just go to, say, the mountains, the Rockies, drive up there, or go up to Tahoe when
Right.
it's snowing. Like that's an example. Like the conditions are not perfect. It might be dark. Its visibility is lesser, and that can happen in robotics when the lab is clean, controlled.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
real life, it is messy. It is unpredictable sometimes, and it is it's loud, like it's noisy.
Interesting. So, how would you say that Meili's robotics or Meili's approach in general actually differ from traditional AMR stacks?
Yeah, so we over the years we've noticed, as mentioned, that when the manufacturers are producing or building their own tech stack, they usually have uh, a last minute approach, like okay, well we need the tech stack now, like put it out there. So what we think that we are benefiting is that we're building a platform or the tech stack that can be adopted by these companies. So they can buy the platform, white label it, package it with the robots. Um, we've taken a technical approach on the tech where we don't want to hard code everything. So if a robot does a new interesting application, you don't have to come to us and say, I want to hard code this in. You can add it via the platform, kind of like a no code UI, and say,
Very
this
cool.
is the action. So we enable some of our robot manufacturers, customers, where they have a platform that's built for different use cases, indoor, outdoor, industrial to let's say more civilian, and yeah, they are capable of doing that without even contacting us. So they have that independence, and that's a merit that we really feel strongly about as a team of engineers. Is no, we should provide the independence. We should not have lock-in capabilities or the limitations. You should be able to deploy the robots for the use case, for the application that it could do.
That's
And
huge.
this
Yeah.
stretches from, again, the different markets or the segments we can do. We can do industrial, so warehousing, manufacturing, to hospitals, to retail, to agriculture, to mining. So it enables the robot adoption at a wider scale rather than being really focused or tunnel visioned into one singular.
Interesting. Interesting. How do you think about sensor fusion and robustness in unpredictable environments?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. I mean, we don't really go directly as we don't build the navigation stack. We let the robot OEMs pick it, and then effectively we only need the coordinates or localization info. But in terms of the sensors, I have been from the sideline watching or reading, or monitoring. I've been monitoring the situation.
Monitoring, yeah.
Where, say on sensors, as like classic arguments, camera versus LiDAR, ultrasound versus ABC. It's yeah, I don't really have an answer. I don't know which one is best or
Yeah,
not, because a camera can be really good at identifying the objects, but what happens if, let's say, a ray of sunlight is blinding it? Can it still see?
yeah.
LiDAR, like, it's been pretty reliable, it's pretty standard, but some of them can be incredibly expensive as hardware, which is limiting to certain manufacturers that want to keep the cost down. And then there is the guys up in Norway who have redesigned the ultrasound, where you can actually now identify persons, objects using ultrasound in kind of a
Wow.
3D level. And I think that's an incredibly interesting new technology that not only is it for the robots, but it can also be used for, say, safety curtains and etc. And being a European company, you're limited, or you have a lot of regulation on GDPR. So if you can identify a person being there but not identify the person, it suddenly enables a lot more safety applications or safety layers to be adopted without having to
Yeah.
worry about privacy or identification concerns.
True. True. Didn't think about that. What does, from a customer side, deployment actually look like? Is this something that they can deploy in weeks or months? Do they have to build with using your technology in mind? How does it look?
Yeah, we've had some users be able to get up and running with the robots, say, the same day.
Wow.
We There's kind of a trick to it, which I was inspired by the CEO at Robotics, and I do need to give him credit for this. Where get your tech team to be, or your development team to be, the customer support, because they don't want to do customer support. They want to just, they want to code. So you get the feedback directly to them, and then they make it easier to use, easier to onboard. So they never need to have the the support calls. So we've had the past onboarding has been 1 hour at least intro sort of session, bit of a training and guidance through, and they've been able to get along themselves. We do obviously support them throughout, and we will have regular interval like check-ins and put in the calendar. But so far we have 100% deployment rate purely for remote positioning. So we've never needed to be on site. We've never needed a robot physically in our office. We always were capable of working with our partners, with their hardware at them or at the customer.
Awesome. Awesome. In your opinion, what do you think the biggest misconception people have about the infrastructure side for these stacks, the autonomy stack, and just fleet management, things like that?
I think I want to focus quite a bit on I guess, is it onboarding? So we can offer our system via the cloud, and that's fairly sort of logical. That's okay, cool. I just connect to the MyLe app via the cloud, and then run it through there. But certain customers or certain operator profiles, they have really stringent and very restrictive cybersecurity policies. So when you say the cloud, they start getting incredibly stressed and starting like, well, you either say you're doing on-premise, or you read through this, let's say 500-page compliance manual. So that's a misconception I definitely had. I thought it was really straightforward. Like, from the beginning, like, well, let's offer as a cloud. It's a login. It's like a web app, easy to distribute, easy to onboard, easy to manage. But in reality, there's a lot of cyber policies and security policies that you need to comply to. And then on the on-premise, I thought it would be also quite so straightforward. Oh, okay, we'll provide you the package that or container that you can deploy on your servers if that is the route we agree to go towards. But yeah, there's not only the cost for them, the customer, for us to have the licenses and all that, but also the internal costs. And I've seen that vary quite a bit from pretty straightforward installation and then maintenance down to companies use third-party IT services, and then there's costs internally. Like, okay, there's the MyLe package cost, and then there's the additional cost internally to build this, and then the total project cost. So that was definitely a misconception I had of it was going to be much more straightforward. But there is an infrastructural investment that you need to do.
Yeah. Okay. Who's your ideal customer?
At the moment, we provide to a few robot OEMs, robot manufacturers, ranging from indoor to outdoor to wheeled to humanoid. But we have really focused quite a bit on the system integrators and the automation distributors now. This is with a commercial model shift we did last year away from us being the operators to now providing the platform, enabling the market to be the operators and own that. So a system integrator who already is providing technology to an end customer, they can now add us to their portfolio, and then they have a lot more ownership, or they have clear ownership of that fleet and customer. But even more, they can now enable new robot adoption through new use cases or solving the issues that maybe the fleet currently has. So robot OEMs, system integrators, automation distributors, we can provide to the end customer as well, but we'll probably see a lot more the former free OEM integrator. And then we've also seen an uptick in robot as a service companies as well, where they have a small fleet, but many sites, and then they need to have that unified platform. Like, okay, how do I have an overview of my entire fleet across the city, across the country, etc.? We've seen a pretty big uptick of inbound RaaS companies saying we're providing different tech, but we have no singular platform to enable this.
So are all of the products that they're providing their own, or they're somewhat of a reseller and integrator as well as their own product, and they want to figure out a way
They are robots as a service. So in fact, the end user is a subscriber. So rather than footing the upfront cost for a robot, you can subscribe to a robot that does an application. Let's say cleaning. Cleaning is a very common robot for this, and maybe you only need it a couple of times during the week, and then the robot can be dropped off by the operator rather than having the robot there. So it's the RaaS company would be the ones who buy it or lease it from the manufacturer, and then they would operate on behalf of the end customer at their facility, at their sites. It allows more flexibility, and again, with the costs, the end customer doesn't have to foot the entire bill of the robot up front.
Interesting. The strategy there, I really like that, the integrators as well, and how they would utilize this. So it sounds like there's a few ways here that you're figuring out a way of not becoming another just robotics middleware company. Are there any like other strategies or focuses that you have to avoid that?
Was definitely with the pivots again. With I think you said it really well, like to not be another middleware. So a lot of times we've been asked, okay, well, you guys sound a lot like OpenRMF, which is an open source fleet management. What's stopping me from just getting OpenRMF and not paying you? And it's like, well, yes, but then you have to do the integration. You need to set up the infrastructure. You need to do the maintenance. You need to know what you're doing. It's all of a sudden that, which becomes pretty easy sounding. The task, the workload behind it is a lot, and then so we to not be another middleware by providing as a platform as a service at MyLe, we are the middleware, but everything is done for you. You will receive the support with the integration. We want to expand the capabilities. Okay, cool. You have a new use case. Let us know. We'll see what we can do to enable that if we can't today. So it's taking the workload off, providing the tool that the technology provider or the user operator, enabling them to actually do the robotics work without having to worry about it. It's a bit like AWS. A lot of people don't want to set up a server in their own facility. Well, have AWS and utilize their infrastructure. MyLe is kind of the same.
Yeah.
Don't make your own, don't maintain your own. We'll support you, but you have the ownership of that deployment. You can do what you want with those robots.
Yeah. I think that's a huge part, what you said about the no-code changes for new options, but then also owning it and owning the capabilities. That's so important. And the flexibility there, I think for the end users, if they end up with a product or a service that is a little bit more rigid, or it just, even if it's not rigid, but you just have hurdles to get over and you have to contact support, you have to contact the company, you have to make the changes that way. It's like a little too cumbersome for fast-moving companies.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like to actually use an example of this where, say on the map editor, where you have the endpoints or the stations that the robot goes to, there is a brand that provides, or maybe provided, let's see what the update is, to the Danish healthcare. But the hospital said, yeah, we've done some moving around on one of the floors in one of the rooms. We need to move the station, the pickup point, drop-off point, about a meter this direction. And the robot manufacturer said, yeah, sure, we'll send a guy up from Germany. And they're like, okay, but the border's
we can't
closed.
do that.
Yeah, this was during lockdown era,
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, well, the border's closed. How are you going to do that? And it's that where we saw that and we heard about it, and we were just like, what? Why? Like, why are you limiting this? Like, I understand source code access. Like, you want quality control, but this is a moving of a station. Like, you can do that on, yeah. So we did a demonstration where we showed that, yeah, you can move that station there to there, or you can fine tune it down to, let's say, the centimeter, millimeter. They were like, whoa, do that again, but slower. It's because they've been paying, and it's consultant hours when they're sending out the support team to do that.
Yeah.
And it's just cost after cost after cost. And it's enabling the independence, enabling the configuration done by the operator. Maybe it's the way that our generation's mindset is, but it just needs to be that. Otherwise, it's just restrictions everywhere.
For sure. I think especially now with all of these changes with technology, going off topic slightly, but AI has enabled people to do a lot more themselves, or even companies and individuals that would have charged more for like consulting hours and like in-person work, or hey, getting this website up and running is going to be like a 4-week project with a 1-week like integration to your current systems. Now those things happen in a couple of days, so you can't really charge the same. Your business model shifts. You don't need to send consultants and all of that for these types of things, but we see the ripple effects of that into every area of technology. And this is case in point. Like, there's going to get a point sooner rather than later where companies who have been subjected to the historic way of charging and their contracts and the slow nature of changes like you're mentioning are just going to be like, this is ridiculous. I need something a little bit more user friendly and quicker.
Especially like if you're so used to the younger companies being able to, yeah, we could do an installation and set up a configuration up and running in, let's say, 2 weeks, and then you ask another company, yeah, you're up and running in 6 months. Yeah.
Which one are you going to go for? Yeah. What have you learned about selling into industrial environments through this process?
Yeah, the enterprise customers, they operate on a much different tempo, a much slower tempo than other companies. So there is, again, maybe I was a bit blue-eyed, naive at the beginning of thinking, yeah, we have a cool tech, you can sign up and get started really, really quick. But no, they do have a compliance policy with suppliers and ensuring that we are compliant to where we are, which of course is the correct way, but it's a very slow process, and that is either if you got lucky and straight in kind of thing, or if you have to go through a tender, RFQ, RFI sort of process. And there is a lot of documentation related to those that you need to sift through, read, answer, query, etc. And yeah, the industrial automation, it doesn't move quickly, which is also fairly scary because technology moves very quickly. And what could be let's say an RFI 1 year and it takes 2 years to complete, well, the technology they wanted then is already out of date in some ways. Maybe we don't even want to provide that platform anymore because it's too little for us. Right? We've moved on to bigger ones. So I do find that there is a lot of the tempo at the enterprise side is quite challenging to work with.
Interesting. Let's shift gears for a second and talk about the team, because recruiting, it's what I do. So I'm always curious about that. And early stage companies, especially robotics companies, you live and die by talent. Your team is so crucial to what you're doing, especially at that early stage. What did your first few hires look like?
Yeah, no, our first hire is still with us, actually. He joined, was it August, September, sort of late 2019. He's our
crazy time.
Yeah,
crazy time.
But this guy, he's from Spain. He just arrived kind of to Denmark. I put up a job posting. I need someone who could be sort of a robot engineer. And this guy was, his first task was, all right, let's build a room service robot for hotels. And he's like, okay. And then something new came up, and he's like, okay. And then something new came up, and like, okay. It's like the design purpose changed all the time.
Yeah.
Now he's leading the tech team as our tech lead. Shout out to Juan, and he's able to really bring together the team, the technical guys and girls, give direction, understand their requirements, explain, so translate my vision as a CEO down to the team, that this is the outcome Aldus is sort of envisioning that we want to do. So yeah, it's really important getting people in your team that understands you and then can execute on that, but also having the ability to also see what you want to do, challenge you as well. Like, this cannot be achievable, this is unrealistic. You don't want a yes person all the time. You need some kind of like pushback. So our first hire, it's a question of the first 5 hires. Well, that was one. That was Juan was the first. Juan was one. The following was yeah, one who could build our infrastructure, so DevOps kind of setup. Then front end came after. Then we started realizing, okay, we need to get some more robotics team into this, like roboticists, and then commercial. Once we started having a demonstratable platform or technology, so we were very tech orientated from the start. I'm an engineer, so maybe I have a bias, but
Yeah. Well, I
but
think it sounds pretty systematic what you did. And when you are a technical founder, you tend to obviously see the importance of those teams more because you understand it more, right? But
exactly.
it doesn't seem like you shied away from a particular part of the tech stack or that commercialization, because that's always the place where companies tend to like trip up, right? They get to that point and then they don't think about partnerships, selling, getting in front of customers, getting customer feedback, things like that.
Yeah,
So having that person in is crucial.
absolutely. I've seen startups that don't even have a product, like just have a PDF, and they say they have a product, they have an MVP, but then yeah, they once a contract is signed, they're like, oh, thanks for the money, now we're going to go build it. Wait,
Yeah.
what?
I've
Well, I was
seen
the
that as
opposite. It's
well.
like I need to have something to show. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
there has to be something that you can demonstrate.
In my humble opinion, that's a lot more above board and the right way of doing it, you know, even from just a like mentality standpoint, because you're kind of lying the other way.
Oh
I get
yeah,
it. It's like smoke and mirrors, but
yeah.
anyway. What I'm curious, you know, for when you're hiring, is it like raw technical depth more than that execution under chaos that you were looking for at first? Or I know you mentioned other stuff like people that can push back and they have some sort of
Yeah.
stance on tech as well.
I actually honestly believe it's very much down to personality. Because our office is based up at the Technical University in Copenhagen. So we have access to a lot of talent up there, and a lot of them are very, uh, yeah, they don't have a lot of experience in working in industry. Like, these are students in their masters or even in bachelors. Um, but they've got such good attitudes. Like they're hungry to do stuff. They're hungry to build. They're hungry to test. Um, so we have a really high conversion rate of student workers who become full time in our company, and they started off with that. So those which weren't students when they joined, a lot of it was their approach in the interview or even their application, where they talked about their interest in robotics. They talked about themselves. You could definitely tell the difference between commercial people and technical. Commercial people are really good about talking about themselves. Like, what's your hobbies? Oh, I like this. Technical is like, oh, tell me about yourself. I like to code. I was like, okay, technical questions, and then they can answer all the technical questions without
Yeah.
flaw. Like they get really excited. It's like, okay, cool. I see that you are this personality. So for me, I went quite a lot after personality, like people who I got a good vibe with. That you are honest, you're genuine. You might not be the most skilled, but let's get you skilled. Like, let's get you working on
Yeah.
this. Not
I like
everyone
that.
is a professional at the beginning. So, yeah, no, I feel our team is really, really strong. There's a good work yeah, culture between us. People are happy. People are respectful. So, no, I feel, but we are also a very small team. We'll see how it goes when we start growing.
Yeah. Are there any particular traits that make someone thrive at Meili?
I would probably say majority of us are quite nerdy. So that we probably some are nerdy on certain things, others on other things. I don't know if anyone watches anime. But for me, for example, I've really gotten into Warhammer again. So
Yeah. Actually, last time we spoke, you were showing me some of the ones that you were painting.
yeah. But yeah, no, yeah, I think we're all a bit nerdy in the team, so we have kind of a bit of an understanding of each other.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good thing. Let's talk about the future of mobile robots. I'm curious about your take on this, and if in your opinion, will autonomy infrastructure consolidate into like a few dominant platforms, or do you think there's a space for everyone to have their own?
I that that's a really, really interesting topic because I've seen and been engaging with some conversations about that. Will there be the really big companies effectively absorbing, acquiring all the companies and then closing out,
Yeah,
which in a way the legacy some companies are like robotics not too long ago, if dare say 20 years ago, there was very few players, but now there's a lot of players, and
yeah,
there's a lot of acquisitions happening at the moment. So do we sort of see it as a roller coaster of few players to suddenly they're too expensive, they're too slow to adapt to new technology and new innovation, and then we start seeing small players come out and start doing that, and then they get acquired. So I don't know. I've also seen both on the sides of the debate regarding, say, system integrators, that it's the industry is moving away from contracting system integrators to install and maintain the equipment. Now it's becoming a lot more in-house. But then again, I'm also seeing a lot of system integrator new companies appearing who are more accessible, who are more understanding, or maybe tailored specifically to that industry segment or
yeah.
sector. So I really don't know. For us, I mean, we work with any of them, so I guess we're kind of have a moat there. But otherwise, I think with the drop in prices on hardware and the new tools to build software, I think there still will be a lot of young new companies popping up all the time, and it seems to
Yeah,
be happening at a much more accelerated rate the past 2 years.
for
And
sure.
I welcome that because it's great to have innovation and competition. We need to do this, and a lot of these guys and girls are focused on specific use case industry segments that others kind of overlooked as thinking, no, this isn't interesting, or no, this isn't scalable.
Mm,
They would solve
yeah,
that, and then it turns out that, okay, well, this actually has a huge market.
yeah. What do you think is overhyped in robotics right now?
Human.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say humanoids.
Yeah,
I mean, really, really, really cool tech. Fantastic work being done by those teams. Without a doubt, technology is really cool, but it's still very difficult to actually see a clear value add or use case for them. They
mm,
keep saying we're going to have this as workers in a factory or warehousing is going to be at home. There's two sides of that. In a warehouse or factory, it's throughput that matters. It doesn't matter how cool the technology is. If a human can do 700 picks an hour and the humanoid does 70, you're going to go back to the human. And there are robots out there now that can do 1,000. They don't look as cool. It's a mobile platform with an arm on it, but it does 1,000 picks while the humanoid does 70 picks an hour. Cool tech, but it's not going to provide value. And then the price as well, like getting into households, I still struggle to see how they can bring down the price. And I think there will be a very large number of these humanoid companies seeing challenges, and a lot of failures because all of them are going for the same market, and
yeah,
it's is far too small of a market, especially considering that a huge percentage of the population, and I think the latest study in the US was over an 80% said no. Households said no, I will not have a humanoid at home. I said, okay, well, where's the market then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's your buyer? So yeah, I think humanoids is a little bit overrated. But yeah, if they can bring down the cost and if they can make it speedier, be able to compete actually with a human on throughput and capabilities. Yeah, I don't care if a humanoid can do a backflip. I can't do a backflip. I can do 1,000 picks.
Good point. I didn't. Yeah, I've always
Yeah,
wanted to do a backflip, but that's
yeah,
neither here
do it
nor
into
there.
a pool, but
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Okay. I'm conscious on time, but I want to get a couple quick questions from you before we wrap. Firstly, on warehouses, in 5 years, what do you think warehouses look like that they don't look like today?
I think that people who are in there today aren't going to be replaced. I think people will still be there, but their role will be changed. So rather than them doing the physical labor, they now become more the supervisor or manager for robots. So they are overlooking them, supervising them. So I want to stress I don't think humans are there to be replaced with robots. Right? That's not the way. Um, I think also in further down in the future, if it happens that the robots are capable of doing all the work, and let's say humans aren't replaced, but there is a labor shortage, so humans cannot be found to fill these roles. If it's only robots, maybe we're going to see lights out facilities be more common, and robots are operating in the dark. This has been talked about for what 20 years. Up and coming, but I think in China there is a facility that has actually achieved that.
Yeah, I saw that. It's pretty cool to see. All right, last one. Ooh, which what shall I ask you? Well, let's see. Let's try and do two. What's a belief that you hold about robotics that most people would disagree with?
Uh, Return back to the do robots replace humans? No. This is definitely the case with people who are not in the robot industry. It is our job to squish or quell or mitigate that concern. It's definitely not true that robots are replacements. Robots are tools, they're equipment, and in some cases seen as colleagues, co-workers.
What's been your hardest founder moment so far on this journey?
Oh, really loaded question.
It's a good one to end
No,
with.
yeah, I mean, people management can be challenging. You need to be both the friend, boss, coach, mentor, supporter. That's quite challenging. Of course, there are days where something has gone wrong and you need to mitigate it. It's like take care of the customer, and you sit there, you get screamed at, and you can't scream back. And especially if it turns out to actually be a problem they caused, you cannot shout at them like the
Yeah.
way that they shout.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of low of control. That's quite hard. Investment is quite hard, where you know what you're working on, you know your market, but you need to get the investors to see it the same way, and you need to work that. That's really challenging. And probably just founding the company and to say, okay, well, I'm now going to commit myself 100% in this. I'm motivated, but you have this thing in the back of your head saying, will you make it? Like, is it worth
Yeah.
it? But we turned 7 in April this year.
Wow.
So here we are.
Congrats.
That voice is definitely not there. And it really excited for after all the experience that we've had. So really excited for everything that comes.
Awesome. This has been great. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Aldus. Really appreciate it. And learning more about you guys and your your take on the industry in general. It's been great.
Thank you very much for having us.
My pleasure. How can our listeners find you and learn more about you guys, follow along for everything that you're doing?
So you can find us on MyLeRobots.com. We're also on LinkedIn, where we update certain news announcements. Reach out to us via the website or via LinkedIn. We're happy to talk about your projects, give you a demonstration, and learn how you want to use your robots, or how you need assistance with fleet management.
Perfect. Well, I hope to see you soon at one of these events we were talking about offline, and we will keep in touch. Thanks again.
Thank you, Greg.